Chapter 119. Overcome with shock and rage. Grace was so stunned by Adrian's words that she couldn't speak. She remembered the last time she'd told Adrian that she was the one who saved him. His reaction had been exactly the same as now. "You knew all along?" Grace's voice trembled faintly. She didn't want to believe that the man she'd loved for years was someone who couldn't distinguish right from wrong. Adrian lifted his lashes, his tone indifferent. "Do you really need me to spell it out for you?" The cold glint in his eyes seemed to transform into ice blades flying straight at Grace's heart, piercing her beyond recognition. That pain spread to every part of her body. She had known him first. Why was all his love for Ava? Was it just because she hadn't spoken up about the truth back then? During the time Adrian and Ava spent together, he'd gradually fallen in love with Ava. Loved her so much that even after being abandoned and deceived, he remained willingly devoted. "When did you find out I was the one who saved you?" Grace dug her nails into her palm, using every ounce of strength to ask this question. I was already 15 at the time. She was only 10. There's no way she could have pulled me out of the ocean. Grace's body swayed unsteadily as she took a step back. "You knew from the very beginning that she didn't save you. So why did he publicly announce that Ava was his savior to everyone? Why was he so good to Ava? Why had he pretended not to know all this time in front of her, and kept using the excuse that Ava had saved him to go to her side, again and again? Because I already liked her. Whether she saved me or not, I would love her." Adrian pressed his lips together. His fingers curled slightly. "Just like how you love me. I lie to you, treat you coldly, misunderstand you without reason, and you still love me. By the same logic, no matter what she does, I'll still love her." Grace instantly lost the strength to speak. She stood there in a daze for a long time. The crystal chandelier cast light on her, stretching a long shadow across the carpet. Her face, bare of makeup, looked especially pale under the lights. Every hair on her body stood stiffly on end. A tear slid from her eye socket, rolling down her cheek, bone-chillingly cold. "Then why did you date me? If she hadn't come back, you would have married me as planned, right?" The woman's hoarse voice was choked with sobs. She seemed to be interrogating Adrian, but also speaking to herself, as if trying to convince herself. Convincing herself that if it weren't for Ava returning to the country, she would have become Adrian's legitimate wife. But this dream was quickly shattered. The man's thin lips parted slightly, uttering two words that chilled the woman to her core. Two emotionless words. "I wouldn't," made Grace's tears flow endlessly. Her emotions gradually became agitated. "If you wouldn't have, then why did you bring me to your house? Adrian, you're just being deceived by Ava, right?" Grace refused to believe it was all fake. That day they had dinner together at a restaurant she really liked. Afterward, Adrian invited her to his house. If Adrian hadn't had something come up that day, they would have taken things to the final step. Adrian gently rubbed his temples. He seemed to have a headache. He thought to himself, no wonder Ava didn't like Grace. She really was difficult to communicate with. Because Ava was at my house that day. I deliberately brought you home to make her jealous. I never intended anything with you from start to finish. Do you understand now? I told you to leave that day because I'd achieved my goal. I didn't need you there, getting in the way." Instantly, all of Grace's fantasies shattered. Her eyes rolled back and she fainted, crashing onto the carpet with a heavy thud. Adrian's brow furrowed imperceptibly. He irritably ran his hand through his hair. She sure knew how to pick a place to faint. "Adrian, why is your front door wide open?" Just as Adrian was about to call an ambulance, a familiar voice came from the entryway. His expression relaxed as he turned off his phone. When Justin Shaw came closer, Adrian turned his head and smiled. "Perfect timing. Take her to the hospital." Only then did Justin notice the person lying on the dark carpet. Grace's face was abnormally pale. Justin was startled. "Adrian, what did you do? What happened to Grace?" She probably fainted from being overcome with shock and rage. Adrian nodded with a frown, his expression carrying a hint of seriousness, as if he were quite certain this was the reason. "What did you say to her? You actually made her faint from anger." "Me? Adrian pointed at himself, looking completely innocent. I only said that Ava and I are getting married. She probably couldn't accept it. He shrugged helplessly. Justin, who had been crouching down to pick up Grace, froze mid-motion. He stiffly turned his neck. She agreed. Adrian seemed amused and laughed. The way you put it, we live in a society with rule of law. I can't exactly force Ava to marry me, can I? Someone who's never been in a relationship like you wouldn't understand. Adrian lifted his chin toward the unconscious Grace on the floor, kindly reminding him, hurry up and take her to the hospital. I need to sleep too. I have to get up early tomorrow to pick up Ava. Why are you just standing there? Unless you want to throw me a bachelor party, forget it. What fun is a bunch of guys? Adrian continued talking to himself as he walked toward the staircase. Before going upstairs, he reminded Justin to close the door for him. Justin's mouth twitched. What was there to be so smug about? When he got back, he'd dig up those videos he'd taken of Adrian crying like a baby and send them to him. Justin withdrew his gaze and looked at the unconscious Grace on the floor. He let out a long sigh. Loving someone you shouldn't love. His voice was very soft, as if lamenting Grace's foolishness, but also warning himself. Last year, when he went to see Adrian, Adrian had been in a meeting. While waiting in Adrian's office, bored, he'd wandered around and accidentally knocked some documents off the desk. As he crouched down to pick them up, he saw a medical report. He had already discovered his different feelings for Ava by then, so when he saw Ava's name in the patient field, he looked more closely. He'd heard about that fire. He vaguely remembered that Grace had been there that day too. He hadn't known the details of Ava's injuries. When he saw the words hysterectomy, he'd been stunned for a long time. Though he felt heartache for what Ava had suffered as a child, he was very clear about one thing. He couldn't stay faithful for a lifetime to a wife who couldn't bear children, so he hadn't dared to harbor any other thoughts. But feelings. Sometimes they weren't something people could control. Ava sat hugging her knees by the floor-to-ceiling window. Dumpling lay at her feet, seemingly sensing her bad mood, not making a single sound. A golden ray of light broke through the gray-white sky, then gradually spread outward. Brilliant sunlight filled the entire back garden. Little by little, it slanted toward the villa. Ava stared at the osmanthus tree by the flower bed in the back garden. The fresh morning air carried the sweet fragrance of osmanthus. This marriage, should she go through with it or not? One moment she wondered if Adrian was deliberately playing with her. The next she wondered if he really wanted to marry her. If it was the former, that would be fine. But if it was the latter, wouldn't she really be tied to Adrian forever? Yet thinking about what Grace had said yesterday, she couldn't wait to immediately get the marriage license with Adrian and throw the marriage certificate in Grace's face to make her see for herself. How dare she say she was inadequate as a daughter?